So thanks for joining at 5 o'clock. I know it's late. You've watched stuff all day long, and it's probably a lot of information, and this is a pretty low-level topic. So thanks for joining. This is the coveted in between you and beer spot of the day too. So the bars will be open fairly soon. So has anybody used Flight Recorder today? One person's used Flight Recorder. Okay. Anybody use Kubernetes? A few people. All right. So mostly we'll talk about Flight Recorder, and it's not super different. Okay, so what we're going to talk about fundamentally here is gathering data, right? So, and being able to understand how your application's working, troubleshooting your application, right? Because some of the most fun bugs you ever have, right, are the things that just happen occasionally, right? And you can never reproduce it in dev or test, right? It just only happens in prod occasionally. Flight Recorder does a really, really great tool for addressing that kind of problem. I'll go back to my front slide here. So my name is Jeremy Davis. I work at Red Hat. I've been at Red Hat for 14 years. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to stand in front of the camera. I walk around a lot, so sorry to those of you who will watch this in the future. I'll occasionally be in frame. So my name is Jeremy Davis. I work at Red Hat. You can feel free to email me at jeremy.davis@redhat.com, and you can reach me at Arrogant Programmer on Threads, Instagram, X, Twitter, Blue Sky. I'm trying to diversify now, right? So it's a pain to keep up with all these. Somebody needs like the one unified one, right? Anyway, and Mastodon. So I'm on all those if you want to get in touch with me. If you have any further follow-up questions or any of this stuff, I'll make the code available. The code is already just sitting on GitHub. Flight Recorder. So this is an actual Flight Recorder here behind Duke, right? It's the black box, which is actually an orange box in this case, but the black box behind your airplane, right? And so JRocket, remember the JRocket and BEA? Who remember, come on, people remember? Yeah, there we go. JRocket and BEA, right? So there was the JRocket JDK. It was put out by BEA Systems, and Flight Recorder was part of this, right? So this is an old tool. It's been around a long, long time, before Oracle acquired BEA, right? So this goes back a long ways. But a couple of changes happened in the past few years. And one of them is that it became open source and it became free, right? So you used to have to spend a lot of money to get to be able to get Flight Recorder to profile your applications. Now it's free. So I started off with an application, and all right. So here's my application, and like not that one, you can turn all that off. All right, so like all applications these days, I asked ChatGPT to write me an application. So we have a ChatGPT application. Any volunteers? Anybody want to use your name first?
John Smith.
John, all right. John Smith. So we just asked the Star Wars API who your Star Wars spirit character is, John. So yours is Ramus Antilles. Do you feel that he, do you have a bond with Ramus Antilles? Okay, that's fine. I have no idea who Ramus Antilles is, so we'll ask ChatGPT again. I think there's a talk on this. This is Quarkus. I work at Red Hat, right? I also love Quarkus. Quarkus is really great, even if you don't work at Red Hat. So we asked ChatGPT who Ramus Antilles is. He's the captain of the Rebel Alliance, right? The Tantive 4. Okay, so he's from the original Star Wars film, so like that's getting better in my book. But just in case you don't actually feel a bond with him yet. We have a little poem here that could potentially change your mind here. Maybe make you feel like this character truly represents your inner spirit here. This is kind of depressing. Captured by Darth Vader, unable to cope, his fate was sealed that fateful night. Okay, so that's maybe not the best poem. So let's maybe see if we get another one here. All right. And we get an error. Okay. Well, it's not so bad to get an error when you're in a talk on troubleshooting, right? So do another one here, say Jeremy. So just create a couple of these things. So I'm R2D2. I just like R2D2. There you go. So I can feel a bond with R2D2. All right. So that's our app. Now, if I want to see what's going on, like we just encountered an error, right? And then one thing I noticed too is that it was taking kind of a while to return this, right? Now I am making API calls, so we can sort of make that can be understandable, right? Let's say I want to dig down in this and see what this means. So what we can do is we can start a recording. And so I'm running this, by the way, right now I'm running this just locally on my laptop right here. And so let's start a recording. Let's clear this out. Can you guys read this okay? Is this font all right? If I say PS minus EF, pipe to grep, Quarkus. A couple of Quarkus apps going on here. One is Quarkus Dev. We don't need that. This is the one I'm looking for, 7702. So let's... there's a couple of tools wrapped around Java Flight Recorder. So Java Flight Recorder, and I generally like to code and mess around with code more than slides, but maybe I should do a couple slides first. So, or at least give you a little background. So Java Flight Recorder is running inside of the JDK all of the time. And it is designed to be run in production. It's a profiling tool, right? But it's designed to be run in production and left on. And it will not impact your applications. Typically, it will be less than 1% overhead. If you really crank things up for profiling, it's designed to be less than 2% overhead. This sounds like it makes no sense, right? Like, at least it made no sense to me. The reason this works is because it's tapping into the things that the JDK is already doing, or the JVM is already doing under the covers. So the JVM is looking at is emitting events to figure out what it's going to do with things, how it's going to, what kind of garbage collection it's going to do, how it's going to move things up, around, right? And these are the exact same events that Flight Recorder is looking at. So really, all it's doing is showing you what's already going on inside of your JVM. And then, of course, you can write some custom stuff, which we'll jump into too. So let's profile this, 77072. And so JCMD is Java mission control, Java something, command line mission control, Java command. So we're going to start a recording. And what starting a recording means, so we've started a recording here, and what that means is normally under the covers, Flight Recorder it's capturing these events, it's putting them in thread local storage, and then it'll offload those, and then eventually it'll just get rid of them, right? It'll just clean it up. So what we're telling it right now is hang on to them until I print them out. And so we're going to do a dump here. And I think we'll call this one 10. Give it the appropriate thread. And the reason that we are giving it a thread is because with JMX enabled, it can find anything, right? We'll look at that in a second too. All right, so we dumped recording number 1 written to this file. So the question is, how do you make sense of this? Well, there is a JFR tool that you can use on the command line, but you have to really know the tool well. It's much easier to come over here to Java Mission Control, which is a nice little UI. It's built on Eclipse. I'll zoom in here so you guys can see. Probably familiar with this UI, right? It's built on Eclipse. And in fact, there's an Eclipse plugin if you want to just use the plugin, but I use IntelliJ, not just because I told the former speaker I use IntelliJ. I love IntelliJ, right? So now, what we have here is it gives us a really quick snapshot into what's going on, right? So this is an automated analysis to tell you places where you might have some trouble. And, it's orange or a bit warning. Can you guys see that okay? That up better. So this tells you, we're using a lot of memory here, right? So we're getting about 90% memory. We have these processes. There's other processes running. I mean, this makes sense. It's my laptop, right? I'm running all kinds of stuff. Right, so it tells you all these other processes, and that might be a bad thing. Of course, this is just my laptop. We can also get a more detailed automated analysis by looking at that view. You can just switch the view right here and go back and forth. So this is the one. It's going to automatically go through and maybe make some suggestions for you, or you can just look at all the stuff really quickly here. And so we see here. So what it was telling us here: competing processes, right? Like many running processes. You might want to wonder what it is you're doing on your server. It's my laptop, so that doesn't matter. And then, free physical memory. And then everything else looks good, right? So our application's doing pretty well. So if we look at some of these, we can also come down here to Flame View, right? Stacker's not available. Yeah, all right. Well, I guess it's on here. And then we can come through quite a bit of detail in here, right? So we can look at our memory here. We can look at our threads. File I/O, I'm not really writing a disk. I'm doing some database stuff, but not a ton. If we look, socket I/O, I thought that might have been a little bit bigger. But But we can come through, we can see, do we get any exceptions? You can drill down through quite a bit of stuff through here, right? We can look at garbage collection. Well, everything looks pretty good. Turn these things on. Can you guys see? Can you guys read this okay? No? Yeah, if you need me to zoom with some of this stuff. I don't want to make you dizzy too, because I know like with the screen, this kind of moves around a lot. But we can come in here and drill through a lot of stuff that's going on, right? I also mentioned that we have events. It's based around events. So here are what our events work. It's the event browser. And we can, all right. So these are basic flight recorder events, and these are essentially correspond to your Java packages, right? But you can come through here and look through all these events. Some of these, you'll notice it says start time, duration, end time. You don't have to time your events. You can just you might just want to know if it occurred or not. But you can time them if you want, so we can come in and see what's taking up a lot of time. Am I okay on camera stuff? Okay. So we can come through and look at lots and lots of different events to see what's going on inside of our application. Now we can also come in, go to our JVM browser. We notice there's IntelliJ, right? So it found IntelliJ. There is my Devnexus monolithic application. So that's the one that we just took a recording from. And I can grab mbeans there. I'm not using an agent. There's an agent too that you can use to collect data from. And you can start recordings right here. There's mission control itself. And then here is the latest recording that we've got, right? So let's say that let's just go to the mbean server, right? And look. So I can come in and get some pretty close to real time. So I can connect and kind of stream my data, right? So the streaming events notion popped up, I think, in JDK 14 originally. And we can come in and profile our application, or at least get a window into our application while it's running just by connecting through the JVM. And we can come back and see, let's see if we can, I don't know if this will do too much difference here. Let's say Santa Claus. So yeah, we're still not doing too much, right, with CPU. Didn't use a whole lot of CPU there, right? I don't know who Roost Harples is. But we can come in here and see, we can watch our in real time. There. Hopefully I'm not making you guys too dizzy, right? And memory, we're doing fine on memory here as well. We can also start recordings right here, right? So we want to start a recording. We can start a flight recording. Can I zoom? All right, here we go. So some of the options we have here, we can specify how long we want to record, right? We can give it just an amount of data, size, stuff like that. So we can configure this. We can pick up from the last one. Profiling, continuous is going to have about a 1% overhead. Profiling, or at least the guys say it has about a 2% overhead. Profiling is going to collect more data, right? But let's just go with a continuous. There's also a template manager, so you can come in and create XML files that'll tell you, I'm interested in these events and these events only, right? So you don't have to pull in everything if you don't want. You can come in and tweak this so that you get what it is you want to see. So garbage collect, you can come drill in largely and see any of this. So these are also really interesting. So you can put a duration on the events you're looking at, right? So let's say that I'm occasionally getting, the network here is pretty slow too, which is, I wasn't going to play with duration too much, but let's say that, I'm making these API calls. Typically, I'm fine, but every once in a while I have this one that pops out over a certain threshold. I don't want to capture all of those. I just want the ones over that certain threshold. So you can come in and you can, configure your threshold, so then I can grab data around that event. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. All right, there's all our stuff. Finish.
Is that just on the JDK?
No, on any of this stuff. Yeah, everything, you can do this with everything. Yep. So we're running a recording, and I can stop. See, we can stop. You guys, yeah. So you have all these options. We can come, dump the whole recording, dump the last part of the recording, whatever, stop. We'll just stop right now. All right, so that's a bit about how this stuff works. Let's go back to a little bit of stuff. All right, so it's been around a long time. We're capturing events that already exist inside of there. Flight Recorder is largely how you're going to work with this. So you guys, a lot of you are on Macs, right? If you're on a Mac, one little trick you need here. LS. I don't know why this is the case. Applications, JDK Mission Control App, Contents. All right. So if you're on a Mac, for some reason, it won't start by default. So come into your Contents folder of your application, and you notice I have info plist backup. That's in case I screwed it up. So you need to edit your info plist, and minus CD contents cat info plist. You need to point it to your JDK. I don't know why you need to do that, but you need to point it to your JDK. Once you point it to your JDK, and I'm using SDK Man, right? So you just point it to the latest one, in SDK Man. But hopefully that'll save you a few hours if you're on a Mac, because you have to discover that. Although one of my former colleagues has a really good blog post about that, and he had to use the 64 what do you call it JVM, but he had to use a different JVM in emulation mode. I didn't have to do that. I was absolutely fine. I just had to point it to that. So anyway, this is Flight Recorder, mission control. All right, so there's JFR, which is Flight Recorder itself, right? There's JCMD, so the Java command line tool, and then there's Java Mission Control, which is how you visualize this stuff. So again, this is designed to be run in production, right? So it's designed to turn this on. And there's a number of different ways you can turn it on. You can put you can attach flags to your JVM, right? So you just say XX, start recording, I think is the phrase. And you can start your recording and run it constantly, right? So if you get your engine, if you get your infrastructure folks to turn that on, if you don't have control over it, you can always pop in and grab what's going on. And then you have multiple different ways of looking at this kind of stuff. Events are aggregated together as recordings, right? So we've already looked at a recording. We dumped out the recording, took a look at the recording. And you can fine-tune those recordings using templates so that you don't have to get everything you don't want, or especially if you're just looking at a certain number of things. And I've got some links in the back, too. I've got there's some really nice articles. One of my former colleagues, guy who created Debezium, has written some really nice stuff on how to narrow this down. Let's say I just want to do REST endpoints, right? He's got some nice stuff around that. So there's tons. I think it's 187, I think, events, or 178. A lot of different events are there, right out of the gate. Some of them are going to be more useful than others, right? But there's a lot of stuff that's already there and ready for you to use. And here you go. This is how we start recording. So these are the different ways. You can just pass these arguments, right to your JVM, or you can use JCMD and start your recording, right? Of course, that assumes that you have the ability to get to that machine or get to your JDK, right? Get to your JVM. So mission control. Mission control is the visualizer tool built on Eclipse. We've already kind of looked at a bit of this, right? Cryostat, this is the other part of the talk. So a couple people are using Kubernetes. How many hands again using Kubernetes? Okay, a few people. So you can see why there's probably some obvious headaches with using this on Kube, right? Like getting to pods. How do you actually get to? I turn the lights off now, and am I in trouble for that? Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't ask for permission. So Cryostat takes Flight Recorder and essentially just enables it on top of Kubernetes. I mentioned I work for Red Hat. Red Hat does a lot of stuff with Kubernetes, right? So we like having a Kubernetes story. And Cryostat's UI essentially gives you a nice window into all this sort of stuff too. So the things that you're used to doing with with Flight Recorder on your local machine or on a VM, Cryostat makes available inside of Kube. So let's take a look at what that is. So I've got, where are we? I've got this application broken up into some microservices, right? I was just a monolith on my laptop, some microservices here, and then here's the Cryostat installed. So it's installed with an operator. If you're not familiar with operators, don't worry, it's not a big deal. You really just kind of install the base install. Is really easy to use, and everything is ready to go. I've already got it open here, so we'll go right here. So inside of here, got a dashboard. So I've connected here. I'm only connected to my main front end application, right? So it gives me a window similar to you get that kind of automated window. I'm going to go blind now. So you get a connection into your JVM. So you get kind of a quick dashboard, and you can edit this if there's other things that you want to see there. Topology is not necessarily the topology of your application, but it's Cryostat and what pods it has pulled in, what it's monitoring. You can set some rules to automatically run. I don't have one of those. So I have a recording here. And so we can do a recording straight through the UI, right? So this is an archived recording, right? And it very quickly gives me an automated analysis, right? That I can go in and take a look at these things. I can also, if I want, and you meant, oh, sorry, you guys see this okay? So this is a profiling template. Sorry? Passwords in environment. Okay, yeah, we have none. Very good. It'd be really awesome if I just put my API key right in there.
If it showed it, made it like it had to start out and all that.
I don't know the answer to that because I try to avoid having those. Right. Right. I did actually. I had this feeling. So especially with Monkey, while I was building this thing out with ChatGPT, right? I had this fear. I use environment variables for stuff locally, right? But every time I did a git push, I had this just really quick feeling. I'm just going to go to GitHub and just make sure I didn't somehow commit a credential, right? And somebody's going to then run up a huge bill on my part. And I was wondering, do we have any native German speakers? I was wondering if there's a German word for the fear of having accidentally pushed your credentials to a public repo. Scheiße. Yeah, there you go. So there is. Because there's a German word for everything, right? All right, so we can download our recording. We can just view this recording in Grafana, right? So let's do that. So there we go. So automatically we go over to Grafana. I guess this recording was pretty dull. But we can go over to Grafana. This one looks better. Oh, no, it doesn't. What happened to that? There we go. So a little bit more. So anyway, we can automatically pop this over to Grafana, right? So the data's cleaned up, ready to go, ready to put inside of a dashboard for you. And we can download it and look at it locally. So we just downloaded, what do we call that? BFF 5783. Let's open that up. Open file. That's in downloads, yeah. All right, so same things we saw before. Gives us a potential warning, right? That could be something wrong, although it doesn't look like it's too big a deal. But yeah, everything looks pretty good. And we can come through and take a look at all this stuff, right? So just like what you were looking at, before, you can just go in, download this from Cryostat. And again, this is everything Red Hat makes is open source, right? So Cryostat, I'm running it in OpenShift, right? Because it's easy in OpenShift. It's already sort of configured, so a lot of the stuff is already done for you if you install it in OpenShift. But you can grab this stuff and install it in any kube, right? So you can run this stuff locally. A little bit, you have to do a little more configuration to get your security and stuff correct. But this runs anywhere you want to run kube. You can run this. It's just an operator. There is also I believe there's a Helm chart too if you don't want to do an operator, install operators in your environment. You can do that as well. All right, so I think I have stressed you can leave it running. And I have some links at the back of this. I really didn't believe this leave it running thing until I read which podcast? It was one of the official Java podcast, and a really great, this one, Inside Java Podcast. Really great interview with the team lead for this. It's a podcast, not really on YouTube. But he really stressed the fact that this is designed to be running all the time, right? So you can absolutely leave this thing running. I'll share this stuff on LinkedIn and stuff too. I'm sure they send them out, right, to everybody. You'll get the slides. But it really is absolutely designed to be running. So you can get general stuff. You can go in. You can also like tweak some templates to look at what it is you want, and you can come do some custom events, right? So let's say some of these were taking longer than others. We might want to, which I think given my bandwidth, they're all taking a while. But I will comment out. So this method, right? This is my method. This is pretty basic looking. If you haven't seen JAX-RS before, it's still pretty simple, right? So I'm posting this method. I'm posting to the assign endpoint. I'm sending in the name, right? So you send in my name. My name's Jeremy, right? I'm going to assign a Star Wars Spirit character. I've got a service that has that method, so I just pass the name over to the service, right? And then I just return a response created, which just sets the 201 and everything, right? And I have this a record called a character assignment here, which just contains what you would expect for the JSON, right? And then Quarks will marshal that back and forth pretty easily. You guys use Java records for JSON? Yeah, Java records. That was a really great addition. So let's say that I wanted to profile this. Let me do this. And let me, where'd my other one go? Let's expand that one first. So here's one with an event built in. Same method, but this time I have a custom event. And so I've got an OpenAI event, or I should have called it a Devnexus event, shouldn't I? That was dumb. All right, so it's OpenAI event, and I call event begin. And then in here I'm adding in, let's take a look at the event first. So the event is, you guys read that okay?
We have Devnexus, the category.
Yeah, I put a category Devnexus. I just made a Devnexus event. So, all right, so this is really basic, right? So event is already in the JDK, right? This is jdk.jfr. So you just extend the event here, and then you can, add this metadata to it, right? So I give it a category. And essentially what that's doing, remember when we looked inside of mission control, there are these folders, and you're going to expand those folders. Basically, that's just creating the tree structure for those folders, right, to make it easy for you to find. In my category, Devnexus is going to be my top level. They recommend that you name it as your class name. I don't think you have to, but they recommend you do that. So I just can always do that. And then you can label other parts of the data that you're capturing. And so what I want to do is I'm just going to capture the character name that's coming back, right? So the idea is, like, let's say if I'm troubleshooting, a REST endpoint, maybe I want to capture my payload because there could be something potentially weird inside the payload, right? And I'm going to want to analyze that. So this is my custom event, and let's go back to my class here. Not that class, this class. So I've got my event, and I'm going to say event begin. And that's going to say start recording. By the way, I can annotate enabled true or false, and you can change that through your templates. So you can turn these on and off, right? So if you want these in your code waiting to go, you can have these in your code waiting to go, and then you can turn them on at a later time. And then I'm going to set that name, because I'm capturing the name that comes back. I'm going to set the name, and I'm going to call OpenAI event end and event commit. You don't have to call both of these if you don't want to capture duration, but I wanted to capture the duration that this is going to run. So,
on that point real quick, when you said you can enable or disable at compile time, does it just get all removed if it's disabled? So it's not even
it doesn't, but even better than that, and a really good question, thank you, because I had forgotten about that. What it's going to do is basically your JIT compiler is going to throw out anything that's not enabled. So literally, like it looks like it's not that elegant. It's not that elegant. You could put an interceptor. That'd be more elegant. but at the end of the day, the compiler's going to rip it out if it's not enabled. So yeah, won't matter.
No overhead. You have it there.
No overhead. You just throw it in there, right? And there it is. You know, and it's not going to do anything to your code. So let's shrink this down. And just in case, let's see, I have my previous one. Let's go to my events. So this is what's going to happen, right? So I'll run another one of these a second ago. But so actually, well, I guess this one didn't have any OpenAI events, but there's where it's going to pop up, right? So Devnexus is my category. I had 0 of those. So let's see if we can get a couple of those this time. Let's bounce this. I think I probably need to bounce Quarkus here. So, well, it wasn't in there when it wasn't in there when I compiled this code. It was commented out. So, all right, and that bounced. All right, database, everything's done up in the back. All right, now let's come over here. Okay, and we'll grab a new recording. So we'll come over here. Not that. We want flight recorder here. So this is my Quarkus app right there. Start flight recording. We'll call it the almost beer time recording. And we'll leave it on there for a minute. That's fine. We'll do profiling. That'll capture. Actually, we don't need profiling. We'll just do continuous. And we'll say finish. All right, so let's come in and add a couple of these things really quickly here. Couple of names. Anybody want a Star Wars spirit character? That we're gonna get like one of these. Right. Something going wrong? Okay. My network connection is really bad right now, huh? There we go. C3BO? Oh, yeah. All right, so yes. There you go. Who else wants one? All right. No volunteers. Anybody know who that is? I don't know who that is. All right. We're just going to say no, though, because we want to see we're out of time. Probably already out of time. Recording? Yeah, it's already done. All right, so, and here we go. So it's giving us our recording already. Physical memory looks a little bit problematic, right? So it's telling us we've got some problems in our memory. We're at 95.9% of memory, right? That's not so good. 33 thrown errors. No such method error. Let's call them that. Competing processes, yeah, we're running on a laptop. That makes perfect sense. So what we were really looking for, though, is we want to see our events. We should now have, there we go. So we've got our OpenAI events, right? So, and because I had the begin, end, and commit, I tracked 3 seconds and 1 second, right? So it gives me my time, tells me what thread it's executing on, and it's the data that I put in there, right? Because I'm just grabbing the name. I mean, you can throw whatever you want inside of there, right? So you can annotate your code with custom events. It's going to strip it out. Again, if those events aren't enabled, it's not going to impact. It's not going to take any kind of hit to your performance. And you could be a little more elegant. So you could use an interceptor or maybe something a little bit cleaner to keep it outside of your actual method. But again, it's pretty simple to come in and do that. And if I take this out, then it just wouldn't have, like if I remove that, it just wouldn't have the duration in there, right? So you just tell it if you want the duration, and you get it that way.
So you have a begin, but if you remove the end, you always need a begin.
Yeah, you need to begin and the commit. Yep. Tell it to start and then commit. Because that way you can demarcate where you want the event occurring, right? Because obviously this isn't maybe the best thing. Although it could make some sense to me to profile at your REST endpoints, but I'm probably going to dig into one of these other services here eventually, right? Because REST stuff is pretty fast. All we're doing is marshaling JSON back and forth. I'd probably end up, coming inside of this actual thing that's calling out to ChatGPT or the Star Wars API for that, right? All right. I think that's all right. So the biggest takeaways, one, you can leave this thing running. It really is. It's designed to be in production. I know I said that a bunch of times. If you don't believe me, I would recommend listening to that podcast. There's also a couple of really good presentations from an older Java 1, by the team. So several members of the team gave presentations, and they really go into this. And no, we designed this to be running. And the reason that works is because your JVM is bubbling up these events anyway, right? This is how the JVM knows what it's doing, how the JIT compiler knows what to do while you're running anyway. And so there really isn't much overhead around this. Second nice piece is you can make custom events, right? And those custom events don't impact your code or performance either, right? And so you can run these custom events, especially if you're having problems with something, add in some of these events and use it to go in and really look at a detailed level of what you're doing. If you're in Kubernetes, take a look at Cryostats, cryostat.io. I also have that link in there. Cryostat makes it really nice and easy to get all this same goodness in a Kubernetes environment, where it would be really, really difficult, right, to get access to pods, especially as pods are all ephemeral. You have to be able to dial in and try to do recordings over who knows what kind of time, right? So that makes it really nice and easy to do on top of Kubernetes, and you get an environment very similar to what you're going to be using on a regular server or your desktop. You can also attach directly, right? So as we attached, whoops, where are we? As we attach directly here, we are attached to your MBean server, and you can come in and you can do some decent analysis of a running JVM, right? So while you're looking at stuff, while you're doing development or testing locally, you can come in and attach this way, right?
Sorry, you sound like you can attach it to the Kubernetes pod.
Yes.
So could you show how you do that?
So yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
So close all this up. So the question was, how do you attach to the Kubernetes pod? So there is a little bit of a difference. Really, the only difference that I had to do for that. Let's go to view, presentation mode. Where's presentation?
Does it connect through JMX and stuff to do that?
So there's two different ways to connect through. It can connect either through JMX or it can connect through an agent, right? So I want to show you the JMX connection because I think this is a little bit easier and less intrusive. But you can bundle your agent. It's not that hard. You just put it inside your POM, put the agent inside your POM, it gets compiled in, right? My Docker file, Quarkus comes with a number of Docker files. And so what I did here was I'm also exposing an extra port here. So 9091 is the port that it's going to attach on. I don't think I really had to do anything else in here. And then inside of Cryostat itself, Quarkus has it already ready to go. But yeah, if not, you have to turn on JMX, right, and make that available. Here's my dashboard topology. So, yeah. It's all magic. It's great. Quarkus is great. Your life will be better if you use Quarkus. So you guys can see here. I like Spring too. I haven't used it in a while. But, so yeah, here you can see the connection URL right here, and it'll discover this for you. So it'll find everything else inside the namespace, and then what else did I do on here to set this thing up? I did have to enable this, so there you go.
So that dashboard that you're showing that on your computer, you can put in some URL or something on 9091, and it'll get it.
Yeah. So in the Kubernetes world, I created a service, right? So because you know where to find the service, right? And that service, and if you're not familiar with Kubernetes, a service is basically a load balancer in front of your pods, right? So your application is in a container, it's deployed to pods, one or more, and pods are ephemeral, right? So Kube might decide to throw one away and spin one up somewhere else. And then a service essentially is an internal only load balancer, right? So this is not exposed, outside the environment. You can configure, expose it outside the environment. Just, that seems, I wouldn't want to do that probably, and probably your security people don't want you doing that either, right? So, but what I have here, this is my JFR service, and I just have the ports. So what Cryostat by default is going to look for anything with that name, JFR JMX, as the name of the port inside your YAML descriptor, right? So you just name the port of your service that, Cryostat's going to look for it, say, oh, I can talk to that, and then boom, grab it and pull it in.
That was Cryostat. You were asking for the client, weren't you? That fat client to connect? Can the fat client connect to it?
Oh, you would have to expose that. You'd have to expose that service somehow, right? So yeah, that's why it's much easier to do the recording like in Cryostat. Why can't I get out of it? Okay. It's much easier to do the recording here and then just download the recording from here. Because yeah, otherwise you would have to connect to your pod, which it means your kube cluster's got to be open. You have to have a window to get to that specific pod. You'd have to have both of those ports open, which you can do, right? I mean, you can expose all a bunch of ports through kube and tie into there. Be a little bit of a mess. Your security people probably don't want you doing that, right? So Cryostat makes it nice and easy because we can just come in, do our recording here, and then you just I'll just download my recording now, right? And again, it does when you come to your dashboard, you can configure this, and so we can put more things on here if you want to have some certain types of events or things that you're looking for immediately. So you can configure a dashboard like that. I'm really going blind.
Can you do the one that you were recording? The one that you recorded your custom one?
Sorry.
Your custom report one that you had that showed the name. Will that show up here?
Oh, I don't have that on there. Sorry. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Next time I do this, I'll have. I should have that in there. Yes. But yeah, because the report's going to come out the same. It's going to be the exact same report. Any more questions or comments or feedback? Anybody want a Star Wars spirit character? Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that when I will fly back home, first thing I should do is to tell my management to have the flight recorder on and recording on every production.
Yes, and they're not going to believe you, right? Right. So, yeah.
What they will ask is that what can potentially go wrong since this is an experimental feature?
It's not an experimental feature. No, not experimental feature. So I don't really believe that. I don't know of an answer to go wrong. What I would point you to, and I said I'll share these on LinkedIn. I'll tweet them out, and you probably get the slides anyway. Send them to this podcast, which is by the folks at Oracle, right? Ask the guys at the Oracle booth. They know. Ask Shar if he knows about this. He can probably talk about it probably better than me. So it is designed to be on all the time. And again, the main reason and the way to explain it, like I said, I didn't believe this either. I'm like, this is going to be a huge overhead, right? Right? But the reason is because these events that we're looking at under the covers, all of these events are, where are they? What events? Where? all these events that are occurring, right? These are all used by the JVM, right? So the JVM's getting this information anyway. It's part of how it's running. So and that's why it's 1% to 2% overhead, is because all it's doing is it has to keep them in memory a certain amount of time, right? Because it's using them. And then what it's doing is instead of throwing them away, is it's just going to keep them recorded for a period of time, right? And then when you say, I want the dump, it pushes it out. So like when I did that recording and I said set it up for 1 minute, it just kept it all in memory for 1 minute and then dumped it out to a file and then got rid of whatever it needed to. So, yeah, there's a bit of overhead during that minute, right? Because some of those things might have been gotten rid of in 30 seconds, right? But it is designed, and the folks at Oracle will tell you it's designed. And there's a bunch of Red Hat stuff too. We talk about with OpenJDK if you're using OpenJDK. We talk about that a lot. But it is designed to be run in production for production applications. So yes, and you have my contact information. If I need to talk to your bosses, I'm happy to. All right.
Did you put a flag? I didn't see. Did you put a flag on to turn it on?
No, I started it from the command line. So you can either start it with that flag, and I can't remember.
I mean, that's just to run it, but it's always running, correct? Or do you have to, when you run your app, you have to push in a flag to say start recording?
To say start recording, yes, because otherwise it'll be getting rid of things on its own time frame, right? Yeah, the data itself is there, right? Yeah, it's just like if you don't start the JVM with the recording flag, then what it's going to do is it's going to get rid of it as it wants, right? And so then with the command line tool, I told it start a recording, and so now I've overridden those parameters, right? Or same thing when I did on Cryostat, I do start recording. But if I do this flag here, where's flag?
But I thought also if you listen to the recording, they'll say it used to be like 10% or more overhead on all this, but that was because it was BA kind of did that outside of the JVM, and they kind of rewrote the whole JVM and all the internals and everything else, and they came up with this pattern.
Yes.
So it's internally embedded in there. It's not just a add-on.
Yes, so it was, because originally this was like an upsell, right? So you were using the JRocket, JVM, and then they would upsell you this, right? So you'd pay extra money to get Flight Recorder, and that way you would turn it on, use it, and then turn it back off. And part of the reason that it became open source is because Java is open source, right? And so one of the later versions, I think it was 14, I think, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, they baked it into the JVM, right? So it's just baked in right now. That's why it's open source. It's running under the covers. But yeah, so like if we say start flight recording like that, when you start your JVM, it'll keep the recording, and you can give it you can parameterize that with like how many megs of memory or how long you want to keep your recordings for, right? Or if you attach later, then you just tell it what to do.
Is it on top of the memory? So if I say I want 1 gig of my JVM, and then I say, hey, I want it to restore 30 megs or whatever of the recorder amount of data, will that minus 1 gig from my?
Ooh, that's a good question. The question was, like if you say I want to store 30 megs, does that come out of the amount of memory I've allocated to my JVM? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I don't know that for 100%, but yeah, I think so. I mean, it's running inside the JVM, right? So it would make sense. It's not going to go grab more memory from somewhere else.
Planning you want to tell your people to turn on to do, like
yeah, if you're back.
Your DevOps people to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
The custom event that you built in.
Yeah.
Seems really nice, so you can pinpoint. What's the performance cost on that? It seems like it would be negligible, but.
So the question is, what's the performance cost on custom events? Because yeah, obviously the JVM's not using those, right? It's not very big, right? I mean, they still say like everything is designed to be no more than 2% and 2% at profiling, right? So it's designed to be at 1%. I guess in theory, if you put events all over the place, right, you started timing all kinds of stuff, then you could probably, create. I mean, yeah. Given the time, we could probably create a problem. But yeah, in fact, you can. Yeah, if they're disabled, like I said, the JIT compiler will yank them out anyway.
That's some mysterious things where we didn't know what was going on with the JIT.
It's perfect for the mysterious things, right? Because and just try narrowing it down, right? Put some of these events in some places and see what you can do, right?
Can you go back real quick where you had that? Because you were saying comment out. Is it comment out, or I thought I saw a tag or something that says enabled or disabled, correct?
You can enable and disable it in.
So in your Java code, so the JIT compiler, so you don't have to have someone seeing, oh, you got commented code out, and someone's like, hey, you can't have.
No, I did that because I wasn't comfortable enough in my ability to code that quickly.
Code, you'll see there's a flag there. You probably could set that on the command line to have that go. Where is it?
Where's my JIT? So actually, you can do. There's a annotation too. We can do. Yeah. Yeah. So you can too, and then you can swap that out later. So I could put enabled false, right? And then it's just waiting, and then I can turn it on later. Yeah.
Do you know what's the overhead of this versus like your logging? Log4j or something like that.
Right. So I think this has got to be a lot less, right? Because it's not file I/O, right? You're not writing to disk, right? And I mean, until you do the final dump, right? But this is just running in memory, right? Whereas logging, you're always writing to disk. So, yeah, I think it'll be smaller.
Yeah, and with the Cryostat, you use this. Now you have access to all your pods. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty nice, right?
that seems like if you're in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I think it's a great. I think it's like one of the coolest things that we've done, like with Kubernetes, is like like building that in. I was like, this is really great. Why don't we tell everybody that we have this?
So it's a better way to troubleshoot, really.
Yes. Yep. Because I need troubleshoot and profile, right? Because you can do your durations of events, right? So you can come in and profile stuff this way too. So it's a combination of both troubleshooting, like especially that thing of like this thing happens in production every once in a while, right? Because that's the thing that you tear your hair out about, right? It's the worst bugs. Like it happens occasionally in production, and then it doesn't happen again for 2 weeks, right? Like unless I had one of those that sometimes those occur around a certain business process time, right? Oh, right at month end close, everything gets slower. Oh, yeah, okay. That might not be the code, right? Yep, so exceptions are in here. I wasn't throwing any exceptions. I guess I could add some exceptions into. I did have some. I didn't intentionally throw exceptions. But yeah.
All of your perception, you could profile those or show those graphs.
Yeah. Exceptions are somewhere in here. Oh, here we go.
Ignored so much.
Yeah, here. Look at that.
People don't want to look at the logs.
Well, it's only 2, but yeah. So exceptions, something was going on there, right?
Can you click on it? We'll drill in.
Let me drill in there. Guess I can't really get. No, I can't get too much closer than that. All right.
So all you know it's an exception.
Yeah.
Even if it's a thrown or.
We got right there is exception, yeah. Oh, all right. All right, well, guys, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for hanging out the whole time.